Presenter will be Mehera Kerawala Arjani, and she'll be speaking about Baba's last warning. Mehera is Erich Jessawala's niece, who she will be talking about a very important series of events in her uncle and their family's life, directly addressing the importance of implicit obedience to Meher Baba's last warning to his lovers. She has lived in Meherazad for many years and knew beloved Baba and his Mandali intimately from the time she was born. She was born into a Baba family and met Baba when she was just born. Okay, welcome, Mehera. Thank you.
Okay. You know, I have a lot of stuff to get through, so there will be times when I will be reading. Please excuse me for looking down and reading out of my papers, but I couldn't, at my age, remember everything without a mistake. You know, I'm getting very old now. Older by the minute, yes. Thank you. So, I'm going to state the obvious and say I have come a very, very, very long way to talk about Meher Baba's last warning. And yesterday, Alisa asked me, she said, you know, why did you feel it important to come here and talk about Baba's last warning? And I said to her, I said, well, for many years, the last warning didn't concern me at all. And in many ways, personally, it still doesn't concern me. You know, why would it concern me? Like she said, I have known Baba since I was born, and probably before I was born, but the last warning never figured in my life. You know, I never had any inclination to think about anybody as God other than Meher Baba. I wasn't really interested in saints or people who had the powers to help people progress on the spiritual path. I didn't have any of those things interesting me. But the last warning came up very strongly, in our lives, when we were confronted with the issue of the person who came to Meherabad and started building his own following. And at that point, I realized that we really need to pay attention to what Baba has said about following other spiritual masters. You know, Baba isn't the only one who has talked about following other spiritual masters. The first commandment says that. The first commandment in the Christian religion says, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Which means, to my mind, you can say there are other gods, but Baba doesn't want anybody to put someone else first. There should be no one between Baba and me. So this is the story that comes about, which shows very clearly how Baba definitely didn't want anybody put between Baba and his lovers. It's not unknown for people, even during Baba's physical lifetime, to declare themselves as Sadgurus or advanced on the spiritual paths. They were there. They were there while Baba was still physically in the body. And Baba warned them. Baba said to them, give up this nonsense, it is dangerous for you. But they didn't, because it is very seductive. The lure of being an illumined master, the lure of having a following, is so very seductive that people cannot give it up easily. I used to do personality development groups, and people became very enamored of what I was telling them. And that in itself was very seductive. So imagine if I decided to become a spiritual guru myself, how seductive that would be. Fortunately, I have no urge to lead anybody, either spiritually or in any other way. But we, as a family, Baba, in 1922 or 23, when our family first met Baba, and the brothers of the Satta family and one sister met him while he was still speaking, He actually made himself their sixth brother, so he became part of our family. And so we were all very complacent, of course we were. He was part of our family by choice. He wasn't born into our family, but he included himself into our family circle. So why would we worry about last warnings? Why would we worry about going to other gurus and masters? We never had to worry about that, or so I thought. Then years later, somebody who was my parents' cousin, and also Erich's cousin, she died. Her name was Khorshid, and I thought her surname was Damania. But when she died, her death thing said Khorshid Jessawala. So I asked my family, I said, why is her surname Jessawala? And that's when I found out that she was actually Erich's wife. Baba had got Erich and his sister Meru engaged to their first cousins, Savak and Khorshid Damania, many, many years before Erich became full-time involved with Baba, working with Baba. And then Erich went to live with Baba, and this whole business of the engagement and marriage was forgotten, put to one side, nobody remembered, except the father of Khorshid Damania. And he was not a Baba lover. In fact, he was very against Baba. And he started writing nasty letters to Erich's mother, to Erich's family, saying, this Meher Baba, he's ruining my daughter's life. He got her engaged to your son, and now he's not doing anything to get her married. So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to keep her on my head all her life? Maybe you should think about what you're doing when you got your children engaged to mine. So when Erich saw this letter, he was so angry that somebody would use his personal life as a tool to criticize Baba, that he went to Baba and said, Baba, you have to get me married. And Baba said, don't be silly, why do you want to get married? Your life is with me. And he said, no, Baba, this man is using this engagement of mine to talk about you, against you, to talk badly about you, and I will not be the cause of people thinking badly of you or speaking badly of you. So after a lot of argument, Baba said, right, let the marriage be done. So the two couples, Erich's sister and Erich, were married to Savak and Khorshid Damania in Akbar Press. And Baba actually didn't attend the ceremony, but he was present in one of the annex rooms all through the ceremony. He had the family come, and he said he wouldn't eat the food that was prepared for the wedding feast, but he asked Erich's mother and sister, who had always cooked for him, to cook his food separately and bring it to him in the little cottage, as it was called. So these two were married, and then maybe an hour after the wedding, Baba called Erich and Khorshid to him. And he met them very lovingly and said, now you're married, and are you both happy? And they both said, yes, Baba. So then he turned to Khorshid and he said, Khorshid, if I ask you for something, would you give it to me? And at that time, Khorshid, she was completely devoted to Baba, so she said, of course, Baba, anything you want. And Baba said to her, he said, give me Erich. So, to her credit, to her eternal credit, she immediately responded. She said, Baba, who am I to give Erich to you? He is already yours. So, yes, newly married woman, without hesitation, she gave her husband to Baba. And Baba was very happy, and he blessed them both, and he said, from today, you can live together as brother and sister. Because they were first cousins anyway, they'd grown up together. So this was not a new thing for them. And so she was sent to live with the family in Bindra house, while Erich went off to live with Baba and work for him. And years went by, and Baba went into the new life, and she was still living with the family. She was actually a very nice, generous person. I knew her from time to time. She was a nice lady, nothing wrong with her. However, in 1957, she met a man in Mumbai. His name was Mir Chandani, and he was a so-called guru. Now, Baba had given her the freedom. She was a very social person. She was very gregarious, outgoing. The Bindra house family was not like that. They kept to themselves. They focused on Baba mostly. But she was unsatisfied with that, so Baba had given her permission to come and go as she pleased within limits. So she would go to Bombay, and nobody knew why she was going to Bombay so much, but she was going to Bombay to be with this man. Mirchandani, and she became his disciple. Around the same time, Baba sent Erich out with a personal message to 5 saints who had large followings. Now, Kirpal Singh was among them. Kirpal Singh was he was very respectful and loved Baba very much. There was another saint in South India called Pappa, who also had a very large spiritual following. The message that Baba gave and that Erich was supposed to go and tell all these people was, Meher Baba has asked me to tell you that you are his beloved son and he sends you his love blessings. So Erich went and met Kirpal Singh and gave him this message. Kirpal Singh was overjoyed. He was very grateful that Baba had called him his beloved son and sent him his love blessings. In fact, when Erich went to South India and met Pappa, he was sitting in a group of his own followers. He was on a dais like this, and his followers were arranged in front of him. And as he saw Erich walking into the door, this man, Pappa, he got off the dais, came, and he bowed down before Erich and said, "Have you brought me a message from him?" And when Erich gave him the message that Meher Baba has said to tell you that you are his beloved son and he sends you his love blessings, this man was overjoyed, that Baba remembered him and sent him his love blessings. Now, so far, nobody really knew that Khorshid was going to this Mirchandani, but he was one of the 5 that Baba had asked Erich to go and give this message to, because he was a so-called saint with a large following. So Erich now goes to Bombay, and he goes to this man's house. And what does he see when he walks into the room? He sees his wife sitting next to this man by his chair, completely immersed in following Mirchandani. And he was shocked, because he had no idea about it. But he had this message to deliver. So he goes to Mirchandani and he says, "I have come from Meher Baba. Meher Baba has given me a message to give you." And he repeated the message which said, "Meher Baba has asked me to tell you that you are his beloved son and he sends you his love blessings." Now, when Mirchandani heard this message, he wasn't happy. In fact, he became furious. And Erich says he was so furious he frothed at the mouth. He was really, really angry, and he shouted at Erich, and he said, "Who does Meher Baba think he is? How dare he call me his beloved son? I'm not interested in his message." Erich had delivered his message, and everybody saw this so-called saint lose his temper in such a very violent manner. So this guy tried to then brush it off and say, "Oh, we high souls are like that. Our anger is like a line on water," implying that as soon as the line is drawn, it's erased. But everybody had seen the outburst, and especially Khorshid. And Erich said that Merwan tells me all this much later, Erich asked her 3 times. He said, "Khorshid, this is not for you. Give him up and come back to Baba with me." And she refused thrice. She said, "No, I cannot leave him." So now Erich goes back to Meherazad, and he had to inform Baba about what had happened when he went on his travels. So he told Baba the stories of all the 5 meetings that he'd had, including the one with Mirchandani and what had happened with Khorshid. And he said to Baba, "Baba, you have sent me out time after time to put out domestic fires in other people's households. And here, there was this big blaze in my own home, and I knew nothing about it." He said, "I had no idea that this was happening." So Baba said, "Right, let's call a family meeting." So a family meeting was called, and the whole family was told to come. The Jessawala family from Pune came. Khorshid was told she had to be present. She came. The Satta family, all the uncles and aunts, and Khorshid's mother from Akbar Press, which was our family home in Nagar, where Baba spent a lot of time. They were all called, and so they came. And it was a family conference. Even the women Mandli were told, "Come and attend." But they couldn't come and sit in the men Mandli hall, so they were told to sit in the little courtyard that is behind where Erich sits, the window. Those of you who have been to Meherazad know that there's a little window behind where Erich used to sit, and behind that window is a courtyard. So the women Mandli were told to sit in that courtyard and listen to the proceedings. They weren't to interfere, they weren't to say anything, they were just told to sit there and listen to what happened. So what happened was this. The family arrived, and Baba told Erich, he said, tell them the story. So Erich started right from the beginning, from the time of his engagement and how, he had forgotten all about it, but Khorshid's father's constant poking and griping about it had pushed him into making Baba agree to getting them married. He said, Baba got us married. Khorshid gave up her married life just like that for Baba's sake. She did not hesitate. She did not think twice. She gave Baba what he asked for, which was me, so that I could be with Baba and serve him. And then he came and talked about how he had gone to Bombay and found Khorshid at this Mirchandani's house, how she had been told to come back with him and return to Baba, and she had refused. And he said, after he'd finished telling them everything, he said to the family and to all the mandli gathered there, he said, Khorshid is lost to us now. She's no longer one of us. She's lost to us. So then Baba asked the family what they thought. And my grandfather, my mom's father, Homi, he stood up and he said, this is nonsense. Baba is our Lord. How can she have another master? She should leave this man and she should come back to Baba. But the other uncles, for whatever reason, and they were no less close to Baba than my grandfather was, they sort of were saying, oh, but what's wrong? If she thinks he's his master, he is her master, then she should be allowed to follow him. And Baba was so merciful that he said, okay, if that's how you feel, maybe she can go and see him on auspicious days. And today is an auspicious day. Today is Ram Navami, which is Lord Ram's birthday, today itself. And Baba said she can go and see him on Ram Navami, she can go and see him on Diwali, she can go and see him on Gokulashtami, which is Krishna's birthday, but she cannot go and stay with him, she cannot be with him all the time. And he asked her, he said, are you agreeing to that? And she said, no. She said, I cannot stay a day without my daddy, which is what she used to call this man. She used to call him her daddy. And she said, I have to be with him all the time. I can't be here. So then Baba said, okay, if that's your choice, I will make my decision now. And his decision was that she would have no further connection with the Jessawala family. She was not to be considered a Jessawala from that day forth. Baba said to her, you will never see Erich again. That's it. And also he said that you have your things in Bindra house, you will go there today and you will take everything that you have that is yours out of there. So then he turned to the uncles and he said, she should also not be allowed to stay in Akbar Press, which was the family home. But my oldest granduncle, Meherji Mama, he turned to Baba and said, no, Akbar Press is her home. She is welcome there whenever she wants to come. My grandfather was shocked. He said, how can you say that? Baba is ordering us not to have her in Akbar Press, and you're saying you're going to disobey Baba? And he said, yes. And all the other brothers and sisters, well, one sister, said, well, yes, where would she go? This is her home. She should be allowed to come to Akbar Press. Baba made a gesture like that and said, okay, but then the Jassawalas will never step into Akbar Press while she's there. As long as she was in Akbar Press, as long as she was alive, the Jassawalas could not go there. So the whole family was split apart by this one woman's insistence on following another master. The same woman who unquestioningly gave up her husband to Baba on the day of their wedding was now saying, you are no longer important to me. I have an intermediary. That's what she was essentially saying to Baba. So what happens? I mean, did Baba give anybody any chances because she was part of the Jessawala family? No. She was thrown out. That was final. That was Baba's decision. At that time, a lot of people, the old Baba lovers, Meherji, all of them, they knew about this because things get around. And one day, somebody asked Baba. They said, Baba, Erich's wife Khorshid, she went to another master. What is the spiritual significance for her? What's going to happen to her spiritually? What is her sanskaric burden going to be like? And Baba said to them, he said, she gave me Erich. For her, everything is forgiven. Wonderful, isn't it? That's an example of his mercy and compassion. For her, everything is forgiven. But you and I, we don't have an Erich if we go away and do something like this, we have nothing to offer Baba that will mitigate what we are doing. So you and I, if we were to do this, we'd be screwed, really. We would. There is no extenuating circumstance that will give us the same kind of forgiveness. You and I cannot afford to ignore the last warning and go chasing after some other master. So this is where I have to now read, because, I have been telling you my story for so long, now I have to read a little bit. So basically, in the 100 years and a little bit more after Baba drops his body, he said that he is as if he was physically present. So in this time, do we really need to find anybody else? Erich would often say this to us. He said, once you have come to the emperor's court, what need is there to go anywhere else? No king, no governor, no petty landlord can trump the emperor's might. So, to my mind, today's meeting is not about the mind, but about the heart. See, Baba wanted no intermediaries, and neither did he need them. All we need to do is look inside ourselves and ask, is Baba enough for me? If you think your answer is an honest yes, Baba is totally enough for me, then you don't need to be here any longer. You can all pack up and go home. He's got you safe. You can forget everything else, take his name constantly, and then wait until you reach infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. That's all you have to do. So coming back to the purpose for this meeting today, I know Sufism reoriented is Baba's. He set it up, and he gave them their charter. MBCNC is also Baba's. Now, but he did set up Sufism reoriented, and he gave them a path, a charter, and a murshida. And he even stated in their charter, and this I quote directly from the charter, Meher Baba may allow anyone to be called and considered a murshid or a murshida, without necessarily disclosing whether such a one is illumined, not illumined, or about to be illumined. In all such cases, Meher Baba will hold himself responsible for the spiritual welfare of all those who may be prepared to and do follow a murshid or murshida, so declared by him. Very important, so declared by him. Since Baba is no longer present to declare someone a murshid or a murshida, each murshid or murshida after IV was declared thus by man and not by God. But that's not anyone's business, is it? It's not our business, it's their business and Baba's. So we don't need to concern ourselves with that. What we do need to remember is that not everybody needs a murshid or a murshida, or an exactly delineated path to Baba. Some people, like myself, we have a direct path to following him. We don't need an intermediary, whether the intermediary is illumined, not illumined, or about to be illumined. We are perfectly capable of following a different path and coming to the same goal, which is Meher Baba and God realization. In fact, we don't even have a choice about the God realization part. You, I, everybody else will get God realization whether you want it or not. So all we really need to do is to simply love him and obey his wishes and his orders, heed his warnings, and remember to remember him constantly. Baba himself has told us, and his mandli, that we have to remember to take his name. Because Baba said, my name is more powerful than myself, and even I take my own name. So if the Lord is taking his own name, we better get on with taking it as well. Now, Baba knew that there are as many paths to him as there are souls. Somebody was talking about beads on one string to me the other day, and how, because on the Baba chat on Sundays, they say all these other prayers, and in between them is squished, beloved God. So they've done the Buddhist chant, they've done the azan, they've done this, they've done that, and then in the middle of it, they squeeze the little beloved God prayer. And I said to them, why do you say all these prayers? Half of them you don't even understand. And somebody said to me, oh, but because it's so inclusive, it's like beads on one string. I said, yes, but don't forget, the string is Baba. The beads are not really important. Without the string, they would fall to the ground and be lost. So you have to focus on the string and not on the beads. And I said, he's given you the new prayers. When my Navjot was done in 1965, I had learned all the Zoroastrian prayers. I knew them all by heart. And so I went in front of Baba with the Sadra and the Kasti and said, Baba, shall I say the Zoroastrian prayers? And he stopped me and said, no, say my prayers. And Baba would stand up and say his prayers himself. So here is this little group saying all these long prayers and chanting Jai Ho at the end, and completely missing out on saying Baba's prayers. Well, it didn't penetrate at all. That's okay. It doesn't have to penetrate. So going back to my talk, because Baba knew that there are as many paths to him as there are souls, he expressly warned heads of groups or centers established in his name through a letter from his sister Mani. And I'm quoting from the letter, Baba wishes to inform all concerned in your area about the following decision he has made in the matter of group meetings and gatherings in his name and love. As you know, the purpose of such gatherings is a communion in his love in full heart and spirit. But though it is true that our hearts are one in love for our divine beloved, our minds differ in the ways and expressions of it. In short, our hearts agree, but our minds disagree, causing unnecessary dissension and disharmony and obstructing the free channel for his love through us. Being all-knowing, Baba knows and understands this more than we can fathom. Being all-compassionate, he guides and teaches us through our very weaknesses, strengthening through difficulties our love for him. For his work, he makes the best use of the material at hand, and whatever he wills or decides is for our ultimate best. As there are different groups in the West, there are also many, many Baba groups in the East, and often more than one group in one place. For the best scope for his love and work, he has therefore decided that the groups should work independently. Through the different groups, minds will be able to more harmoniously express their love in Baba. He is present wherever a few meet in his name. He is well present today. There's a lot of us meeting in his name. I believe that the moment a group ceases to be a medium for minds to harmoniously express their love in Baba, the moment that fear takes over and pushes love aside, the group ceases to be a Baba group. Sufism reoriented has their path. Their path has an intermediary. MBCNC has their path. Their path has no intermediary. As long as your path is making you happy, and as long as Baba is your first priority and obedience to him is your only consideration, you will get there. It may take me longer to get there than it will take you to get there, but we will all get there. And that is why you need to have a bylaw stating that while everyone is welcome to your meetings, not everyone can become a member of MBCNC or sit on your board. If someone belongs to a group that has different needs or requirements from yours, then she or he cannot become a member of the board of directors for MBCNC without there being a conflict of interest. This makes it more harmonious, passing such a bylaw, and allows group members to get on with the main purpose of the group existing, which is sharing their love for Baba and deepening the group's focus on him and him alone. So what I want to say is this, I hear that preceptors from Sufism reoriented are going around and talking about how their path is the only one to Meher Baba with a guarantee of an illumined murshid or a murshida. True or not? It makes no difference to our journey, right? Or does it? Do we fear that they will lure our children, our grandchildren, into their belief system? Do we trust Baba so little that we have to worry about these reasons and consequences? It has nothing to do with us. Once we are his, we leave his work to him. Baba has often told his mandli, he said, I do my own work. And so we have to trust that he is doing his own work. Some of our young people might think, yes, that's a nice way to go to Baba, 6 plain illumined murshid or murshida, very nice, disciplined path, and they might join. So what? Let them. If that's their choice, so be it. It may help them focus on Baba better. But though a lot of young people feel the need for discipline, there comes a time when the discipline becomes internal. As we grow in him, our discipline to love him becomes internal, and at that point, he takes over. Our work is done, The matter is now in his hands, and he will make sure that he takes care of it in the best way possible. So everybody will find their own way, and it may not be our way, but everybody needs the freedom to do that. But there is no true freedom without knowledge, and this is where today's gathering comes in. Because we have to give everybody the facts in an objective and loving manner so that they can make up their own minds, knowing both sides of the story. Once we do that, the matter is out of our hands, and Baba alone is responsible for the spiritual welfare of us all, and he will do things in his own way. The last warning speaks also about not getting involved in the personal affairs of others. I quote from the last warning, "They," meaning Baba lovers, "should not let any personal affairs vitiate their relationships with one another or affect their efforts in the work they do for the cause of truth." This is the last warning, second last paragraph, and you've got it there in your handout. So what can be more personal than each soul's relationship with Baba? Let us remember this at all times. So it's okay to disagree. It's okay to agree to disagree. My uncle Erich was one of the most non-interfering, non-judgmental people that I have ever come across. He was a Libra. He was the perfect balance of mind and heart. And he was accepting of everything. My son Sheriar, when he was about 9 or 10, one day turned around and announced to my mother, "I'm not a Baba lover. I don't believe Baba is God." My mother was so shocked, she was really shocked. So she drags him to Erich in the trust office, and she says to Erich, "Tell him, he's saying this kind of thing, tell him not to talk like this." And Erich turned on her and said, "You stay out of it. It is none of your business. This is between Baba and him. You have no right to interfere in his relationship with Baba." And my mother had to shut up because she couldn't really challenge Erich, could she? So for someone who wouldn't even talk to his own grandnephew about that grandnephew's relationship with Baba, I can only imagine how difficult it had been for Erich to write those letters, for him to take the stand that he did. This was not in his nature, but my uncle was well known for doing what he had to do. And even if it was against his own nature, he would do anything for Baba, no matter what the personal cost to himself. And he would not regret having to do that. So if anybody says he regretted what he did at that point in time, probably not. Only Erich could tell us. He's not here to make this clear, but from what I know of my uncle, he would not regret doing what he had to do for Baba. He may have regretted hurting people's feelings because he was very loving and gentle, but he would not regret what he had to do for Baba. So now I'm coming to the end of my 11-page thing, much to my relief and yours. Baba has said, "Do your best and then leave the rest to me." So this is what we have to do in the next couple of days. We have to do our very best to put the facts out there so that any decision that anybody makes in now or in the future is an informed and a considered one. After that, all we can do is obey his order to not worry and be happy. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Okay. Any questions? I have some minutes left for questions. Does anybody have any questions? No questions?
Mary,
Yes.
did Erich ever personally tell you how Baba ordered him to go to speak out publicly in 1980? Did he tell you about the
No.
personally?
No.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, did Erich ever tell me personally how he felt prompted by Baba to speak out in 1980? And my answer was no, he didn't discuss that with me. Jack.
Just as an adjunct to what you were saying about worship, I was at Manila in the 1970s, and I was playing cards with Amrit, and there was a knock on the door. And I see a woman's lady, and she's wearing, was it pink? What were the colors?
There was something like a maroony pink, yes.
Maroon colors, and all this gesticulating and everything was going on between Amrit and her, probably Gujarati, I don't know. Couldn't understand any of that. But when she left, I said, "Well, who was that?" And he go, and I said, "That was Khurshid's wife."
Yeah.
courage. And Amrit had to tell her, the Bible forbade that, and she couldn't
Yeah,
do it.
that's right.
If anything, she was supposed to go to the trust office, but,
No, but you know what happened with Khorshid at the end? She went and stayed with Mirchandani, and he worked her like a servant. She was not fed, she was made to clean the dishes, clean the house, and one day she fell down and she broke her hip. And that man threw her out of the house without even taking her to the doctor. Somebody else who knew the family took her to the doctor, and she had the legs set, but she always walked with a limp after that. She came back to Akbar Press, and she died some years later, very miserable and heartbroken. And, because of her actions, not just she, but so many people in the family suffered. Yeah. No more questions? Shall we break for lunch? Yes? You make the announcement.
I'd like to just say one thing, just really quickly.
Come up here.
So many times when I was in India in the early days, the Mandali always would talk about once you hear his name and come into his fold, your destiny is changed. And sometimes when we make our own decisions and go against what Baba's advising or ordering, things happen that may have been different because we didn't get out of his way and surrender that to him when he gave us the opportunity. And so I think that's some of what you're going to hear, and I'm going to elaborate on that when I talk a little bit later. But like Kumar, one of the things I'm going to talk about is how he talks about Baba flips the switch on the fan of our life. It doesn't stop immediately, but it does slow down, and things just change totally once you come into his fold. So that's the beauty of that direct connection with Baba. And that just reminded me of it when you were talking about Erich's wife.
Thank you, Vesta. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mehera. That was wonderful. And I think that one of the more important things that you said that I want to hold on to as we go into the afternoon is just Erich's nature, to keep a sense of the fact that this was not in his nature to do what he did in writing that letter, because we will see a lot of detail this afternoon about what happened. So.